You're listening to the Money Monopolizers podcast, helping you take control of your financial destiny. It's about time that we invest more in our financial literacy and work towards building generational wealth. If you think you're ready to do the same, then you've come to the right place. Alex, Marlon, y'all ready? Let's get this bread.
What's good, everybody? It's Alex Camuño here. We are back with episode 105 of the Money Monopolizers podcast, and I am here with my co-host, Marlon Walls. Marlon, how you doing today, bro?
I'm doing ecstatic, man. Let's just give a step back and just acknowledge where we are again. So first off, I want to give a shout out to my boy Brandon White, the owner of BN Venue, this space that we're in currently, this event space. Big shout out to you because you've been allowing us to come into your space, be able to record these podcast episodes, man. So big shout out to you because I know that where we're going right now, we're going to make sure we take care of the people who took care of us along the way. So big shout out to you. And anybody who's looking to get into an event space in the Houston area, this is a place to come to. So definitely want to give a shout out to him first. But other than that, I also want to talk about just the journey that we've gone through just for the past couple of days to get here because for one, this entire setup that we've been getting into, like setting this up, tearing down, setting up, it's really been gratifying just to be able to like go through it a couple of times. Now we don't have any more mess ups. Now we're becoming experts in this field. Like I just think about if I wrote down a resume, I would have just a whole bunch of like miscellaneous things like content creator, cameraman setup, audio setup. Like there's so many different things that come along with just the space that we're in with podcasting, and then just content creation, and then just getting out of our element of the day-to-day like 9 to 5 stuff. So I'm just in a very grateful mood right now. So that's kind of how I am right now. How about you?
Man, I'm feeling good. It's we 3 days into fall now, so the weather been a lot better now. It's gotten cool, beautiful, especially out here in Houston. So
episode 105.
Episode 105.
Wow.
So man, it's we moving along now, and the goal is to keep pushing, keep putting out better and better content. As y'all can see, the production has definitely took a step up, and we are excited for what what is to come too. And today we got a amazing episode planned for y'all. This has been a episode that we've been looking forward to doing, especially out here in Houston, man, because there's so many heavy hitters in the Houston area in terms of business, entrepreneurship, and real estate specifically. So today we got one of them, one of the heavy hitters that are out here in the Houston area, Mr. Byron Holman. Byron, how you doing today, man?
Oh man, I'm good, man. I'm blessed, bro. It's just a lot of good, positive things going on just in life right now for me. And I ain't finna even front, man. I'm definitely grateful, man. I do not take anything for granted that God has blessed me with, the doors that He's opened up for me. Glad to be here with you guys.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? On episode 105, after the equipment got stolen.
Hey man.
You know what I mean? Yo, that makes I'm grateful for that.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I could have been on that first episode.
Man, come on, man.
You didn't want to go through those trials, man. We was making trips to Best Buy every 2 seconds. Like, dang, we forgot that too.
Trust me, man. It's been a journey. So you definitely you caught us on the uptrend.
Sure, it's dope. I'm appreciative. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, man. So we got so much that we want to get into today with your story and with your journey, and I know you got so much game to share with the people in terms of business, entrepreneurship, and real estate. We've been following you. And we've been, peeping a lot of stuff you've been doing. So, but before we really get into everything you got going on today, the way we usually start our episodes is we really want to get into the background of our guests so that we could really let our audience resonate. Because I think with every guest that we bring on, there's someone out there that's going to be able to resonate with you in some type of way based on something that happened in your childhood and your experiences growing up or whatever the case may be. So we really like to get into that. So can you take some time to kind of get into how you grew up, what your mindset was around money growing up, what your parents would teach you, what you were doing around 18, and then kind of how you got to where you are today?
That's a great question. So I would say this. I grew up in the hood, right? I had a very poor family, but it was rich in love, rich in family. So that was one thing. My mom and my dad were almost kind of like the neighborhood parents, you know what I'm saying, to the whole community. Even though we didn't have a whole lot of money, it was like that was always intact. But with that being said, that didn't come with its caveats, right? So the caveat to that was my dad sold drugs. You know what I mean? Now he wasn't some big time drug dealer, but he sold drugs. Even my grandmother sold drugs, right? So I grew up in that type of environment, and it was almost normalized for me. And when I looked at money, even growing up, beyond that, one thing I remember is that my mom would always, she always lived right at her means. So let's say if she made $2,000 for the month, she spent $2,200.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
Just above what
and so even though she always had good credit, right? Always was able to kind of make things manage, but in terms of financial literacy, it was not the most financially literate way to live, right? And so when I look at things like even when I was going to church, right? Because I grew up in the church. I played piano at the church, all of that kind of stuff. I was heavy into it because my uncle had a church, my dad's brother.
Yeah.
And so one thing that they would teach a lot about is, the prosperity gospel and buying nice things, having nice things, and living this abundant life. But what a lot of people didn't realize is that abundant life came with a cost. And that cost a lot of times robbed you of your future opportunity because you really was living outside of your means. You understand what I'm saying? And impressing folk who don't like you anyway. You understand what I'm saying? So the same folk that you showing up for, you got your nice car, you got your nice clothes, and you trying to show them that you that person, they talking about you behind your back anyway. Yeah. You understand what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
So for me, it was a couple events that took place in my life that kind of changed that mentality, because I grew up into that too. When I was younger, I was driving a Benz. I had money. I had Versace clothes. I had, you know what I mean? I did all of those crazy things because it was all about impressing other folk.
Yeah.
And until I got caught up, I ended up going to jail. Got caught up on a drug case, big drug case. And that changed my life, man, because Marlon, it's funny, man, when you really hit rock bottom, you realize all of the people that you're trying to impress don't matter anyway.
Don't matter.
Because half of them not even gonna answer your phone calls
when you need them.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And the people who you thought was, the people that you overlooked in your time will come up, them be the same folk that had your back. And so once I realized that, I divorced myself from having to please others. And once I did that, it allowed me to elevate to levels that I've never even saw imaginable for myself today.
Yeah. So the reason I love that is because for a lot of the things that you talked about and a lot of things, you mentioned, a lot of those kind of things, they can end up destroying someone's life. Like being in that environment,
yes.
Like the way that it kind of influences you, and the people that can be around you, that can destroy your life. But for you took it, obviously, based on what we're gonna get into today, you allowed those kinds of things to motivate you and to fuel you, and you just looked at it from a different perspective and a different lens. Is that kind of what happened for you in terms of how you actually transitioned to where you are?
Absolutely, man. But I'm gonna go ahead and put this out there though. I can only say by the grace of God,
Yeah.
I'm here, straight up.
100%.
Because here's the deal, man. I was literally looking at 15 years to life, right?
Yeah.
Real deal. You know what I mean? So, and I was, listen. The good thing is, my parents, I still believe, did a great job in terms of instilling certain core values into me. So I never was a wild child, in the sense of doing reckless things. I just did risky things because I always kind of had that entrepreneurial spirit, but the things that I grew up around taught me entrepreneurship from a different lens. So I knew how to get money, But it's like, yo, like how you get
So
money
it was like, cause I don't know if you're familiar with like 50 Cent and his story and how obviously he talked about in his book the 48 laws or the 50th law of power.
Yeah.
And how he kind of grew up in that same environment. He took a lot of those things from the streets and used it in business.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's the same thing I did, you know, and it wasn't until, I went to jail, and when I got out of jail, I ended up getting a job at a hospital. And so when I got the job, I was around like a lot of Nigerians, and all they would do was pour into me about going to school, doing this, doing that, right?
Yeah.
And so after a while, I did it. So I ended up going to nursing school.
Okay.
And it was good because it was right around the same time that the judge, I was fighting a case. And so the judge was...
Wait, how old were you at this time?
Oh, man, I was like in my 20s.
Okay.
Late 20s.
Late 20s, okay, cool.
So when the judge saw that I was doing that, she was like, yo, she respected it, you know what I mean? And so in that time period, it was like, yo, she started just kind of like showing love, you know what I mean? Like in her own little way. She didn't overtly say it, but I knew that it, you know what I mean? So I really think that in combination with the amount of money I spent on lawyer fees helped me to transition out of that scot-free, because I beat the case 100% with they dropped the case.
All charges.
All charges.
Yeah.
And that was not easy either, man, because they was trying to give me probation and all these kind of things. I was like, yo, I ain't getting that. You know what I mean? I'm finna go to nursing school. I'm finna become a nurse. None of that is possible if you want to be in that field. So I did everything, and I tell people to this day, if they would have charged me an additional $100,000, I would have did it.
So what was that catalyst then that was like, because there was at some point there was something that like made you decide, like even before real estate, before business, all of that, even to get out of like the streets and to get into, obviously you mentioned people were pouring into you. What was that catalyst that made you, do that?
So I'll be honest, like I always wanted to be a legitimate business person since a kid. It was just one of those things where you get caught up in what you have for the moment and what you're good at for the moment. And I feel like I was good at what I was doing. Like I was a good drug dealer.
Right.
Like I got good at it, just being real. And I even say when I got caught up, I didn't get caught up because of me. I got caught up because somebody else that I was looking out for.
Man.
You know what I mean? But I'm glad that I got caught up, because I got to the point to where I was almost arrogant, and I felt like I couldn't get caught. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I got good at it.
Yeah.
Right? I was not, I wasn't reckless. I was measured, right? And I operated with integrity. I kept my word, right? And all of those things translate into good business, even in the streets, just like it do in the real world. So I always wanted to transition that into a legitimate business. I never wanted to just stay in that lane. It was just something that I got accustomed to, and it was become a ritual for me because I was so good at it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, so I definitely resonate with that, man, because I see that you always had the aspirations of just like going from life on the streets into like legitimate business. So
Absolutely.
But you said you went into like nursing school after that, right?
Absolutely.
So now talk about that transition, because like that's not necessarily
Bro, that's 180 degrees.
Absolutely.
So I'm trying to like
Nursing school from the streets?
Exactly.
Like, so how does these transitions happening from?
I mean, in a way, it's kind of, there's some synergy because it's still, drugs to some degree.
Hilarious. I didn't even think about that.
I didn't think about that. Not at all, but man. No, so is that kind of the process? Like, how did that transition work for you?
You know what's crazy, Marlon? It was like this. It was okay. It was really the people who poured into me. If you would have told me that I was gonna be in nursing school, bro, like fresh out of high school, I would have looked you dead in your eyes, and I'd have been like, yo, is you crazy? Like you got a psych issue right now. You understand what I'm saying? Because it was so far removed from what I felt like my pathway would have been.
Yeah.
Right, so I think nursing came as a result of me going to jail, right, number one, and me saying, let me pursue something that is gonna help me get to my next level. And these people were pouring that into me, and because I had divorced myself from pleasing other people, right, I never would have thought of even going into that space. You know what I mean? If I wouldn't have been so in tune with my own lane. Like literally, because, you know, even if I would have told my boys back in the day, like, yo, I'm finna go to nursing school, they were like, yo, nursing school, like, why you doing that, bro? Like,
bro, especially if you was in the streets, and
Yeah,
that's a female dominated
Conversation
industry.
with male nurses as it is. So now
Yeah.
you telling your boys in the streets like, hey man, I know I've been rocking with y'all, but
I'm finna
it's
go ahead and
nurses.
They would be like, yo, like, bro, dude bugging. You know what I mean? So for me, it was like, it was so outside of my wheelhouse, but at the same time, when I looked at the opportunity that I felt like it could give me, when it was explained to me how that process works, I was around other male nurses, I was around other nurses in the field, and it kind of gave me a different lens of the entire field. And once I saw that, I was like, okay, I can do this. I can use this to get me from this level to this level. They make real good money, right? And I can use this as an investment tool, an investment strategy for my next entrepreneurial.
So you knew that it wasn't this wasn't your end all be all.
Absolutely.
It was just a means to the next thing.
Absolutely. Well, the thing about it is, man, I'm a hustler, bro.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I you know, I've accepted that. You know, it's funny. I tell a lady all the time, it's like, yo, like, I'm a hustler, like, you know what I mean? I probably will never consistently work for anybody. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just a hustler, man. I like to be able to write my own lane. You know what I mean?
Right.
I was good at being an employee because even in that field, I rose in that space. But to the top, I ended up becoming a head administrator of the entire facility.
But that's because, I mean, for you, I feel like it's like your mentality is how you do anything is how you do everything.
Absolutely.
So it's like,
no
even
matter
if
what
you was
you're
in
in,
drugs, or
absolutely.
you in nursing,
you rise to
real
the top.
estate,
Absolutely.
you're gonna be at the top.
Absolutely. So, you know, I rose in that space, and it was fun, you know what I mean? And I still have a PRN job from time to time. I don't go much. I probably work maybe about once every 2 months at this point now, you know what I mean? So I'm rarely there, but I still keep it to keep my license active. You know what I mean?
Okay, in Texas.
That's good, man. I like the part that you talked about. You saw other male nurses that were in the industry, and that kind of dispelled some myths that you had in your own personal mind. Because a lot of people won't make certain moves until they see somebody that they can resonate with, that they see themselves in. Not to let them know that this is a possibility for you. This is something that's acceptable. This is something that you can pursue.
Absolutely.
So you saw that as an opportunity, and so now an opportunity for what exactly? So I know you said you wanted to go to the next level, but what was that next level for you at that point?
So, you know, I was reading a book called Dave Ramsey called The Total Money Makeover. And so, you know, that was what I felt like I needed, because I already knew how the Robert Kiyosaki model. I already knew that, because that was like that comes natural to me.
It was just okay. So
Really?
I never really hear that.
Yeah, leveraging and expansion, you know what I mean? Because you got to understand how I grew up. Like, my parents, they lived above their means. Not saying that Robert Kiyosaki was about living above his means, but he's about leveraging credit to elevate, right?
Yeah.
And so I understood that philosophy.
That's interesting.
But I didn't understand the Dave Ramsey philosophy in terms of saving, budgeting, right? Looking at that spoiled brat in the mirror and saying, no, you can't go buy this, you can't go buy that. And a lot of that stuff still lives with me now, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's funny, like, a lot of people look at the income that I make, and then they look at the things that I do with my income, and they realize, like, yo, like, I'm not really flashy no more, you know what I'm saying? It's funny, I make more money now, right, than I ever have in my life. And my lifestyle is more humble than it's ever been in my life. Back when I was not making as much money, I drove the best cars, I wore the best clothes, I looked the absolute best. Now, I'm cool. And I'm cool just like being regular with the way that I show up.
Because you know you got it.
Exactly.
You ain't got to show it off to somebody that's trying to impress nobody.
Exactly. And so, you know, I would say that a lot of that transition was with the Total Money Makeover, man. I just learned to start a budget. And so nursing school, I was literally, once I got out of nursing school, I was living in the projects, right? Literally living in the projects. And I was living on about 30% of my income.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah, 30% of my income. And I was saving 70% because I was like, yo, nursing is gonna be my first investor in my business.
I love it,
sir.
I love it.
And so I literally deprived myself. You know, I drove my old car. I you know, I was ridiculous with it. I don't even recommend nobody do this. I was eating sandwiches and eating like just basic foods. Like I was overboard with it. Like literally trying to save every single dime that I could, and I did that for years.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And after that, I was like, yo, now I gotta pivot. I gotta pivot because I gotta make way more money, and I'm never gonna save my way into what I need to do.
Well,
and that's how I ended up finding out about real estate. It started out, I wanted to do franchises, but then I was like, you know, they ain't making the kind of money that it looked like they make. You know what I mean? So I was like, I wanted to get some subways and different things like that, but I was like, nah, I want to get me some real estate. I want to get me this real estate.
So I want to comment first on what you had, you know, first talked about with the Robert Kiyosaki and the Dave Ramsey, because that's such an interesting phenomenon. I think because for a lot of people, first of all, most people never find out about either of those for a very long time, right? But I think with your background, you say you were able to be exposed to the whole concept of leverage and using OPM and leveraging other people's money, other people's time to get, you know, where you want to get to, right? And so when you kind of saw that whole Dave Ramsey thing, that's so crazy to me that was actually like the thing that
More appealing at that
that
point.
was more appealing, or that was, because it's always the other way around. Because typically we always hear, even if you don't follow it, growing up you still hear like, oh, you should save, budget, blah, blah, blah. I mean, for the most, you hear it, but you might not necessarily understand it or listen to it. But you never, ever rarely hear anyone talk about leveraging credit or leveraging OPM. So the way that you got it kind of in the reverse way, I've never heard that before. I have never heard that, but that's super dope.
Man, absolutely, man. Yeah, Dave, shout out to Dave Ramsey on that, man.
Yeah. So, go ahead, Marlon.
I know. I also want to talk about just how you say you live a very humble lifestyle now, but at the same time, you can afford that life of abundance that you used to always hear about while you was in church. Like back then, when you said your parents were like going to church and they would always hear, you deserve to live a life of abundance. This is what the Bible is saying for you to do. That is truly what you can do in your lifetime. But like we were talking about last episode, me and Alex, we were talking about it's a process to get to the top. It's a process to get there. Most people would just see the end result and they want that right now without going through the process to get there.
Absolutely.
That's why you said your mom was she would make $2,000, but she would spend $2,200 because of the fact that they all they heard was the end result, and now they want to implement that into their life right now. What you learned along this way is that there was a process, and I love your story about saving 70% of your income, eating sandwiches, driving the same old beat up car, living in the projects even though you were making good money. All of those things is the process that people are going to try to
Delayed
avoid,
gratification.
and they want to jump straight to the flashy cars, the big house, the best clothes, and stuff like that. When you understanding that process allowed you to segue into put away enough money so that way you could be able to finance your first business. So now we want to really get into that of like what this life of scarcity or this life of delayed gratification do for you as far as getting you into your first business.
Oh man, so what it did was, okay, I had a buddy of mine, and he was always, you know, we would always kind of share ideas. You know, you always got that homie where you can kind of like bounce ideas off of. And so he was just telling me about this real estate thing. And so I was like, yo, I definitely want to get into this real estate space. And so he kept pouring, and finally I was like, well, look, man, let me go to one of these little, you know, seminar things or whatever. And I went, and I ended up joining this little real estate group, and it cost me like $20,000 to get the mentorship. And I ain't gonna lie to you, when I spent that $20,000, I felt dumb as hell. It's like, yo, this got to be, you know what I mean? But at the same time, it ended up being one of the best decisions I ever made, because that $20,000, I was able to, you know, make so much money. Like I literally was able to make that back plus some in the first couple of months. And so it changed the way I approach the building of life. Because see, before, when you're in the streets, right? Or not even just in the streets. When you're younger, you kind of have more of an arrogant attitude and try to figure everything out on your own, right? And so what that process taught me is that, bro, like who's dumb enough to try to figure stuff out on their own? Why are you doing that? Like either pay some folk that can help you shortcut your process, or get around some folk that can help you shortcut your process. Yeah. You understand what I'm saying? Like one thing that we don't have a lot of, and that's time, right? And so we don't have an infinite amount of time. We can always make more money. So I had to change the way I view money and time. Now I will blow a bag to shortcut my time in a second. You understand? Because I know for a fact if I can invest the right amount of money, right, to buy me back a certain amount of time, that's a better investment than trying to increase the amount of time that I spend trying to figure something out. You understand what I'm saying? When I could just pay for it. And once I learned that, I was able to just take big jump steps. You know what I mean? Like big steps into levels of success. You know what I mean?
So I think that's interesting how the fact that you were able to like mentally even spend $20,000 on education before you had even, got into anything, because a lot of people, they, sit here contemplating buying a $150 real estate course or something like that, or even, investing into, some mentorship or something like that, that's $5,000. So for you to, that early on in your journey, how did you were already in that mindset of, understanding that education and the information, is, like you said, that going to shortcut that timeline to get to where you want to get to. How did you actually like mentally make that decision? Because I think a lot of people need to get to that point where they're able to, because you got to be a certain type of individual to spend money on information and education.
That caliber at that.
At the beginning, I ain't gonna lie to you, it was rough. It was rough. I didn't want to do it. I felt like, why am I finna give somebody my money, right? Because at the beginning, you view it 100% as a loss. Right? For sure.
It's not an investment.
It's not an investment. You view it as a loss, and you view it as an expense. So at that time, I was no different from anybody else. You know what I mean? And I think that making that kind of an investment, into yourself, it's gonna be difficult and it's gonna suck at the beginning. But what liberated me was my belief in myself. I was like, at the end of the day, I know me. So if they give me the information and the tools that I need to make this happen,
that's a fact.
I ain't giving up on myself. So I'm gonna make this shit happen. I'm gonna make it work. You know what I mean? And so my attitude was, I believe in me, and I had divorced pleasing other folk, so I ain't have to feel stupid if it didn't work out, right? Because I didn't care about what anybody thought. I think those two things will help me get to that next level. It was divorcing, people pleasing, and believing that anybody else's opinion matters, and belief in myself that I can do anything if I got the right tools.
That's huge, man. Have you heard of the book Who Not How?
I haven't.
That book is nothing but what you're saying right now. So that book is saying you don't need to necessarily know how to do everything, or you don't need to try to figure it out all for yourself. You need to figure out who can help you achieve those things.
Absolutely.
And once you adopt that mentality, you let go of trying to hold on to every dollar that you have, because you understand that dollar can be better utilized by investing in the right information that can bring you back many more dollars in the future. Because the biggest thing that you said is that I had the belief in myself that all I needed was the information. I have the drive, I have the hustle, I just don't know how to get to the next level.
You knew yourself.
And so once I get the right information, I'm going. It's the only difference between where I am today and where I'm going to be is having the information to get there. And if I got to pay to get the information, so be it. Because once I get the information, the money I paid is going to be expounded tenfold or beyond that, just because because now I encompass my drive with the right information. So now, what did that $20,000 investment do for you?
What was that first deal like too?
So the first deal, man, so I paid the 20 grand, and then even after I paid the 20 grand, I still had to find mentors inside of the group.
Of course.
And so I connected with some guys that were doing some decent numbers and doing kind of what I wanted to do. Connected with them. That first deal, I think I made like 20 grand, right? Then I turned around and did another one, made about 15 grand, and it just kind of kept compounding on wholesale deals.
The wholesale.
Absolutely. So the first one was a house out in Alvin. It was a flood home, and that was another good thing, man. I started right around Hurricane Harvey time.
Okay, I was going to ask. So this was 2017, right after the flood. Wow. Okay.
So it was perfect time for what I wanted to do. So a lot of my success I actually attribute to that time, because it was like all of the houses were flooded. Nobody knew what to do, right? And then people was getting insurance money, right? So on my first deal, that dude had got his whole house, the money that he got for the house, he had already got that and insurance money. So everything that I gave him on that house was just cherry on the top.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I was able to get that house, flip that house real quick. Then I got another one, then I got another one, then I got another one. And then after that, man, what I realized, it was crazy because I was working at the same time, is that I was making good money, man, because I had almost made pretty much half my income in like a couple months.
Off a couple of deals.
Yeah, off a couple deals. So I'm like, yo, this is crazy. But then I'm also going crazy because I'm working like a slave, like literally, you know what I mean? And
At the 9 to 5 or wholesaling?
Both.
Okay.
So I'm working my 9 to 5 plus I'm wholesaling.
You was
So,
slaving.
yeah, bro. So I'm literally working like 100 plus hours a week, felt like, right?
Yeah.
And so in that time frame, I'm like, okay, look, I'm making good money, but this shit is crazy. I'm going out on dates with the lady, you know what I'm saying? I'm taking phone calls, you know what I'm saying? I'm leaving the dinner table, you know what I mean? I'm looking goofy out here. And so I was like, yo, like something has to change. And what I realized was that I needed to learn something else. I need to learn systems. So the guys that I was working with before, they were good at making money, but they weren't great at systems, right? And so what I started to invest a lot of my time and energy into was learning how to remove myself from the business and work on my business and not in my business. And once I embarked on that next journey, that was another set of mentorship.
Yes.
You understand what I'm saying? So I paid money to learn different strategies to do that. I got into books, and, all kind of stuff. And so once I learned that, man, I slowly started to transition myself out of my business, and I was working a full-time job, and it was crazy. By the time I was in a position financially to quit my job, I didn't need to, because the amount of time that I was putting into my business had decreased so drastically.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And the income had increased so drastically, it was crazy. So I went from literally making anywhere from 20, you know what I'm saying, 30, $40,000 a month to making like 100K a week.
Wow.
You understand what I'm saying? But the crazy thing was, it was with less time.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
100%.
So when you look at it from that perspective, you do 100K a week, and at the same time, you're spending maybe about 5 to 10 hours a week on that business.
Yeah.
It's different.
Oh my gosh.
Man, I had to write all that down because I just wanted to take everybody else on the journey that I'm hearing right now. Because what I understand about life is that it's nothing but a consistent transition of seasons, and then each season has its own mentor. So going back from the very beginning, and your first mentor was like your parents and just your environment that taught you the entrepreneurship journey.
Absolutely.
That taught you how to be an entrepreneur fundamentally. But then you transitioned to that doing that 180, becoming that nurse. You had mentors in that space that at least allowed you to get on your feet to get to that next level. Now you start seeking, like, how can I better manage my money? That was the Dave Ramsey piece right there. And now you start being able to save and save your money for being able to get into transition into your first business. That came from that $20,000 investment. So now what you're starting to see is that at each stage you're starting to it's like a snowball that's building up a head of steam when it comes to the amount of money that you are making. So now at that $20,000 investment stage, now you're doubling the money that you made at your nursing job.
Absolutely.
And then what happens is that it starts to compound, and you start seeing exponential growth as you go into one season from the next. Now you invest in a new mentor to get the right systems into place that encompass everything else that happened before that, the entrepreneurship, the saving, the understanding the right habits of how to build up money the right way. All of those things encompassed together now allows you to make that $100,000 per week, because with the right mentor at that level. But at every level, the mentorship was always there to get you to the next level beyond that.
Absolutely. And that's the thing. It's like, at the end of the day, because you start to, even like employees. I remember when I first started hiring employees, right? I would view employees as an expense instead of an investment, right? And so all of those things just begin to change, man, as you grow in business. And then you start to realize, like, making money is not difficult. It's I ain't gonna say it's easy. It's not easy, but it's not difficult when you understand the laws and you follow the rules.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? And I think the rules are continuously invest, right? Continuously systematize your business, right? and automate whenever you can.
Yeah.
Become more as efficient as you possibly can, right? Grow, expand, and then get more efficient. Grow, expand, invest, then get more efficient. Grow, expand, invest, and then become more efficient. Because the efficiency is where the profit is going to come.
Yeah.
The expansion is where you're going to conquer new territory, right? So it's always a battle of, let me conquer more territory. Yeah, I may lose a little profit in that little transition period, but I'm gonna learn. After I get accustomed to this new area of growth, I'm gonna become more efficient, which is gonna increase my levels of profit, and then I'm gonna take those profits, reinvest again.
Man, and I think the best thing that you are talking about is the whole concept of systems, because this is a super important conversation for a lot of entrepreneurs, because what happens is when most people get into entrepreneurship, they're able to, start the business and get it to like a certain level where they can operate it and get it to a certain level, but most people can never get it to that next level. And I think the biggest reason is because most people never learn about systems and duplicating themselves.
Absolutely.
Right? And how to actually do that. Because that right there, I think, if I have a business and my business only runs if I'm there, my business is worthless.
Absolutely. Because most people are hustlepreneurs. Let's keep it real. Like, I think a lot of people are good at hustling, right? But once you start talking about systems and you start talking about core values, you start talking about policies and procedures, you start talking about SOPs, you start talking about
start turning them off real quick.
Yeah, payroll.
Because that's the
accounting.
back end stuff. That's not the sexy stuff.
It's not sexy. And so a lot of times, but what happens is, bro, here's the thing. What I've noticed about a lot of entrepreneurs, what they don't realize is you come in with your hustle, right? And then what you don't realize is that hustle, at some point, you're gonna burn out. And when you burn out,
talk about that.
The business burns out. And so
Because you are the business.
You are the business, right? And a lot of people don't even recognize these things because they don't take the time to sit back and look at their business from a bird's eye view and say, how can I put some things in place, right, to replace me in this business? Because if you don't do that, at some point you're going to burn out.
Yeah.
Every hustler is going to burn out. And when you burn out, a lot of times your business goes with you, and that's the reason why most businesses fail. It's
100%.
not because, you know what I'm saying, they didn't hustle at the beginning, because a lot of them do hustle at the beginning, but they burn out, and then when they burn out, it's done. It's a done deal.
And I think, let me know what you think about this, but I think people need to be implementing that immediately when they start the business. Like, you need to envision your business as if it's a big business.
Envision is the
from day one.
Exactly.
That's the bird's eye view you was talking about. People can't have that. People never envision their business as far as where it can go because they're too busy working inside of their business.
Exactly.
They're an employee in their business rather than being the CEO of the business and looking at where's the vision for the company. How can I get there? How can I expand this business beyond me working within it?
Exactly. And the thing about it is, one thing that I don't know, a lot of people don't realize is when I was working all of those hours, I was capped at maybe about $20,000, $30,000 a month, right, in my business. Now, it's crazy because you would think that me working that hard, right, and keeping all that money, which it was good for the time it lasted, but when I made that transition, I was able to make a significantly higher amount of money.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? With less of my time.
Yeah, less input.
And so that's the key.
Yeah, and I think it's like a rocket or like an airplane or something, man. Like in the beginning, you got like the thrust has to be high to get out of low Earth orbit or whatever to actually escape the Earth's gravity. But once you get out of there and you implement the systems, like you said, efficiency, things start to scale, and then you see returns that's like insane.
Exactly.
So that's a super important conversation that people need to really listen to and apply to whatever business they're in. Because it doesn't matter what business, whether it's real estate, regardless of what business you're in, you can apply it to whatever business.
Absolutely. And it's funny because I don't feel like that's taught a lot in our community. You know what I mean? We hear about hustlers. We see businesses, you know what I mean? We'll see the barbershop. We'll see, like hustlepreneur type of things, but in terms of seeing scale, seeing systems, seeing all of that kind of stuff, we don't see a lot of that in our community. You know what I mean?
That's a fact.
You know what I mean? As a matter of fact, and once black folks get to that level, it's almost like you don't even get access to them no more because they're removed from the
everyday person.
You understand what I'm saying?
Because it's not, at that point, you're not relatable to a lot of people.
Exactly.
Because it's like, most people, like you said, are hustlepreneurs. And it's like, in order to get to that service, you can't be a hustlepreneur.
Absolutely not. It's just impossible. You know what I mean? And it's funny because people see me now, they're like, yo, you know what I mean? So you still doing real estate, but it's like, dang, like, you know, they look at it like, I'm doing real estate too, but then you traveling all over, you doing this, you doing that, you know what I mean? You
Like,
own
the real estate doing for me what it's doing for you.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And they're like, how do you have time to do all of this? Because like my time is not what drives my income.
Yeah.
My brain drives my income.
So I know that you're like you are big on in the space of like influencing, because like we talked about beforehand, we know that you're big with Clubhouse, and as far as like the business over breakfast, you're big on your own personal pages, like when it comes to like teaching real estate, teaching entrepreneurship. So, and I know you have like you built the Any Deal app, like the Any Deal
No,
app.
I didn't know. It was my business partner. That's my business partner.
Okay, so
yeah.
Okay, my bad.
Yeah.
Okay, so but now you also had the 9 to 5 to millions though, right?
Yes.
So
yes.
yeah, I'm gonna talk about like how are you like what is that implementing? What is that doing for you as far as what is that doing for other people when it comes to like teaching it?
So that's exactly what I'm teaching in the 9 to 5 millions. Is I'm teaching the fundamentals of real estate, right? But I'm also showing people how to build a business. Literally put the systems in place, a carbon copy of my business.
Yeah.
To where when it's funny, you know, like I always say this, but you go to McDonald's, right? Or you go to Chick-fil-A, right? What's the demographic of the people that you see there? You see teenagers.
Yeah.
Man,
right?
talk about that.
So literally you got high schoolers who got their first job
good.
running an entire multi-million-dollar business. Now when you think about that, you know, how is this possible that you got teenagers running a multi-million-dollar business? How? Because they have systems in place. And those systems are dummy-proof.
Yeah.
Right? And the owner doesn't even have to show up half the time. A lot of times you'll go to McDonald's, you'll never see the owner.
Yep.
Nope.
Right? And so that is only possible because they put the absolute best systems in place on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I strive to teach people is that, listen, it's not about like just having your business. It's about putting things in place to where your business can function and operate with or without you.
Yep.
That is true ownership. That is true legacy. That's something you can literally potentially pass down to the next generation.
Good,
Yeah.
man.
You can't pass a hustle down.
No, it's like a job.
Come on, bro.
You understand what I'm saying? But you can pass down a business that runs efficiently on its own.
Yeah, man, I love that because it's such a concept that's like so far removed for a lot of people. Because I love the analogy with McDonald's and Chick-fil-A, or really any franchise you can see out there, but those are the really good ones, because especially with Chick-fil-A, it's like, how do you get freaking 18-year-old kids to say my pleasure and to say all these certain things like clockwork, regardless of wherever you go, anywhere in the country, it's the same exact system, same exact result, regardless of wherever you go. And a lot of this has to do with, like you said, it's dummy proof, because for a lot of entrepreneurs, it's like for me in my business, I always say it's like, I don't want people thinking. I'm going to do the thinking for you, and then only to a degree. But for the most part, I'm going to do the thinking for you, and I've already done it. You don't have to do it.
Exactly.
You just have to follow the script. Because if Chick-fil-A said you figure out, how to, do customer service or anything like that, it's not going to look like the way it looks like today. So that's a super important concept in terms of like making your business dummy proof, and a lot of that comes from the system. So is that primarily what you're teaching in the thing?
Oh my God, it's 100%, because a lot of people don't look at wholesaling real estate as something that you can systematize like that.
Yeah.
A lot of people look at it like it's just a perpetual side hustle.
Yeah.
And it's not.
Yeah.
You
So
know
what are some ways? How do you actually? And you can choose what you want to give out, but like,
No, absolutely.
yeah. How do you
No
actually?
stingy energy.
Yeah. How do you actually like systematize a wholesaling business, like a real estate wholesaling business?
Well, I think it starts with core values, right?
Yeah.
I think this is one of those things that most people look at as the hocus pocus realm of things. I think everything starts with core values and making sure that the team is centered on those core values. I think that is one of the most critical pieces to establishing kind of a culture, right? So if you look at Chick-fil-A, right, that is all of those things that you hear about them, my pleasure and all of those kind of things, that is established from a centered culture.
No doubt.
And so what you have to start with is building your team with the right core values, and establishing how you want people to interact in your business, right? So it starts there. The next thing you have to do is you have to start to document those processes, right? What each process to the where everybody understands exactly what they're supposed to be doing, what their role is, right? And you want that role to be somewhat repetitive, right? Like what you said, dummy proof, remove the thinking. Yeah, to where you're dealing with people who have to be innovative.
Yes.
Because folk are not going to be innovative for your company. They'll be innovative for their own sometimes. You know what I mean? But they definitely not going to be innovative when it comes to your business. So what you need is, of course, you're always going to look up and get that rock star, right? But that's not likely. No. You want people to be able to come into your workspace, know exactly what's expected of them, right? And be able to produce this desired result. The next thing that you're going to want to do is get good at tracking KPIs and automation.
Define KPIs for us, and for anybody who doesn't know.
Yes, KPIs are key performance indicators. So key performance indicators. So what you want to do is you want to strip that business down, right? And you want to look at all of the profit centers in that business and find out all of the things that drive ROI, right? And then what you want to do is you want to put a number and an expectation on that KPI. And that's all it really is. And once you know all of those different profit centers in your business, then you can tell your team, look, I need for you to do this. I need you to do 5 calls a day. I need you to close 2 deals a week. I need you to do this a month, right? And that's what I expect from you. And what you can do is you put systems in place to be able to track and automate that process, right? And once you can do that, you don't have to be sitting, beating over people and all that kind of stuff to make sure and motivating people to do the job. You just say, hey, look, how close are you at getting this done? How close are you at getting this done? And then they can track themselves. They know when they fail it. You don't have to tell them that they're not performing. They already know.
And I love that too, because especially once you're introducing employees into the business, it can get real convoluted with egos and those kinds of things. But the reason systems are so great is because you can make a regular person look extraordinary with having systems in your business.
Absolutely.
A regular, they don't have to have any qualifications. I hired my first operations manager for my cleaning business, and she has 0 qualifications for that role, but I have my systems in place, so it's you're gonna get trained the way I actually want you to get trained, and now you're doing things based off not because of your own intuition or your own judgment. It's based off of how I think they should be done, how I want them to be done.
Absolutely. And the thing about it is, once you start to track that stuff and you get good at tracking metrics, those things start to paint a story. And when they paint a story, you see a track record of success. So you know exactly, okay, if I do a little bit more of this and I take a little bit less of this, then I can get this result. And I can get this result faster, better, more efficient. Right? And cheaper. And so all of those things you recognize through that tracking process, but a lot of people don't do it because, let's face it, man, it can be boring, right?
I was finna get on that, man, because this mindset is easily, you already know this is next level as far as thinking as a true entrepreneur, but a lot of people are still that hustlepreneur mentality where they're saying things such as, nobody can do anything in my business better than I can. Absolutely. That's probably one of the top things you're gonna hear somebody say for their business. That's why they don't wanna hire nobody out, because they definitely don't wanna hire no 18-year-olds fresh that's in high school right now or whatever, because they don't feel like they're gonna treat, that person's gonna treat their business the way that the actual hustlepreneur is treating their business. So how do you dispel those myths in those people's heads and get them to transfer over from that hustlepreneur to that entrepreneur?
Well, the question is, do you want to work your face off for the rest of your life? Because what's the point in having money if you can't enjoy it?
That's good, man.
Right? I mean, when you look at people like, some of the most successful entrepreneurs, man, they not sitting, toiling over these small little minute things like a lot of these business owners.
I always say you never see Jeff Bezos delivering a package.
Nah, bro, you don't see it, bro. And so you really have to step back and say, listen, what kind of business owner do I want to be? Do I want to be driven by mostly ego, right? Because I think that is an ego-filled place. Do I want to be driven by ego, or do I want to be driven by profit? You have to ask yourself those kind of questions.
It's a tough question for a lot of people.
Yeah, so if you want to be driven by ego, you're going to be in there, micromanaging every little bitty piece, right? And not putting systems in place. And if you want to be unorganized, you're going to be doing the same thing. If you want to be a hustlepreneur, you're going to be doing the same thing. You're going to be there, right? Putting in tons of sweat equity for minimum results. If you put systems in place and you empower people, right? You empower people, then what's going to happen is those people are going to give you ultimate freedom, higher levels of income, higher levels of profit, and lessen your time commitment.
Yep.
You have to ask yourself what kind of business owner you want to be.
Yeah. And then at the end of the day too, it's like at some point your mentality around being in this business will change in terms of like you might not have a passion for it, you might want to retire, whatever the case may be. If you have no systems in your business, again, your business is worthless. No one's buying your business.
Absolutely.
Because essentially they would have to buy you to buy your business.
Absolutely. And nobody want to do that.
Right. So you got to be even thinking about, that's why it's so important from the beginning, because you got to be even thinking about the exit, whether that's 10, 15, 20 years from now. Developing that stuff from day one is only gonna make your business a lot more valuable. And I heard that in a book actually yesterday. It said the number one customer that you should be catering to in your business is the end buyer that's gonna end up buying your business. Because if you cater to them, you're gonna build your business to be so valuable, so profitable that you might not even have to sell it.
Absolutely.
So it's such a a tried and true principle that we got to understand. So what I want to kind of transition to before we end the show too is I want to kind of talk more so about with the wholesaling, the real estate stuff you're doing now. Is it more so, are you still focused 100% on wholesaling, or are you keeping some of those properties now for as rentals, or what is the long-term vision and the plan?
So that's perfect question. So my plan now is to buy a lot more of my properties that we are wholesaling, and hold on to them, build up that passive income. As well as venture into other businesses as well that are kind of vertically integrated in what I'm doing. So
wait, how just so because I don't think we mentioned how many deals I guess are y'all doing a month or?
Oh man, anywhere from we do probably about 10 to 15.
10 to 15, and what does that usually equal to in revenue a month?
It depends, anywhere from about 80 to about 150 grand. You know what I mean?
Really?
Typically,
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
And this is all in Houston?
Yeah.
My God.
Well, we do outside of Houston, smaller cities around, all of those suburbs, all of that. Yeah.
Okay, hold on. So, because, man, I mean, we
about to get a whole other conversation.
I don't want to get to do, because it would be like 2 podcasts.
For sure.
Yeah.
But because I'm just so curious, because we've invested in Houston too. We've done some flips here, some rental properties here, and stuff like that as well. And Houston is one of the most competitive markets in the country, just because everyone's coming down here to the south now, and so real estate is just getting super saturated here. But so obviously to be doing 10 to 15 deals, $80,000 to $150,000 in revenue a month, how are you finding deals? Is it primarily, are you still using those same things that people do in direct mail, ringless voicemail, text
So right
message?
now,
what do y'all do?
we're primarily focused on cold call. That's our main thing right now. And I would say this, we're not heavily in. So this is the thing. This is another thing you get good at. After you start to track your profit centers, you start to realize where to invest more of your money. Mm-hmm. And so what our numbers have told us is we don't focus heavy in the center of Houston, because your ROI for the time investment, for the money that you put into it to get those deals back, typically you'll find that people will say that they're invested in the big cities, but really, when you dive deep, they really invested in the outskirts.
So it's outside of 16 or outside the Beltway?
Outside the Beltway.
Outside the
Wow,
Beltway.
okay.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
So
now, of course, we don't exclude Houston.
Yeah.
Right? But we don't spend, let's say let's put it like this. If I can make $10,000 in Texas City with $25 in marketing money, right? And then I can make $10,000 in Houston with $500 in marketing money.
Nah, it makes sense.
Where you gonna focus?
Where you gonna focus? You understand what I'm saying? So these are the kind of things that you only see when you track.
You tracking the KPIs.
I was thinking of that. That's why it's so important.
You understand what I'm saying?
Because otherwise, you're just gonna keep doing the same. Like, damn, it's not working.
You're gonna just go everywhere.
And the funny thing is, maybe it is working.
Yeah.
But you could be working more efficiently and making more profit.
Instead of spending that 500 for that one deal in Houston, take that same 500 and double that down to triple, quadruple it into Texas City over there. And see how many more deals you come up with.
Exactly.
That's good.
So then what kind of properties do y'all typically target then? Is it foreclosures, equities? Like what are y'all usually targeting?
So because we do so much volume, right? We're pulling pretty much everything because we're a volume company. So what happens is you'll see like smaller companies, I think it's important to niche down and try to find pre-foreclosures, try to find tax delinquents or whatever these little niche lists are. But when you do volume, bro, we pulling millions of records. You understand what I'm saying? So it's a different philosophy. So we're going after the big list, the tax delinquent, we're going after the absentee owners, right? And we're doing just thousands of calls.
That's what I wanted to ask. Because to get 10 to 15 deals, how many calls do you think? So first of all, how many cold calls do y'all have? And how many do they call per week? Or like, how do y'all measure that?
We're calling thousands of people, man, like thousands of people. So we got about 12 cold callers on the staff right now that outside of the company. And then we got inside company that does lead managers as well. So what they do is the 12, they're just calling nonstop, right? And then we have follow-up specialists inside of the company that are just calling the leads that we got. And then we got 2 acquisition managers that are closing those deals. So it's you got the big pool right here, right? And then they come and bring it to a smaller pool right here. And then from this smaller pool, they send it to another smaller pool for the acquisition managers to close those deals.
So you're not calling them all yourself?
No. Matter of fact, if you ask me what's any of the deals look like that we closed last month, I probably couldn't tell you.
Really?
Yeah, big facts.
That's how it should be.
Yeah.
That's the whole essence of this whole episode, man. Like once you understand that you don't have to be the one that's doing everything in your business for it to be profitable, for it to scale, that's when you can truly begin to scale your business. Because you're not feasibly going to be bringing all that in by yourself because you're not gonna bring all that in and still have a life outside of it. At least.
Not at all, bro.
And I love this whole conversation in this episode because I didn't even know how it would kind of evolve. I'm happy it did turn out the way it did. We're talking about systems because that's so applicable to anything. Like you're obviously in wholesaling and you're a successful wholesaler and doing that, but like everything we talked about today is you can apply this to whatever business you are in. And that's why this is so valuable. So I absolutely love it. So what we want to do now before we do wrap up the show is hit our last segment of the show, which will be the Fast 5. So this is where we'll ask you 5 questions and you'll answer them in 10 seconds or less.
Let's do it.
Yeah, and so I'll take the first one and then we'll alternate. So first question, what does success mean to you?
Freedom. Time freedom.
100%. That's right.
Short and sweet. Question number 2, what is your favorite money or business book?
Ooh, man, that's a good one. I'm gonna have to go with Robert Kiyosaki, man.
Cash Flow Quadrant, Rich Dad Poor Dad. Yeah,
absolutely.
Okay, would you rather have $1,000 a week for life or $1 million today, and why?
$1 million today because I'm gonna leverage the hell out of it.
I could have told y'all that.
No, for sure. You could just tell the conversation.
Yeah, I can usually tell what they're gonna say based on the conversation. Yeah.
Question number 4: if you can go back and change anything about your journey, what would it be?
I would have spent money on mentorship earlier.
After you had already spent $20K initially.
Yeah, I would have done it a lot earlier.
Really?
Love it, man.
I hope people really listen to that and take that to heart because it's a reason for that. So last question, where can people find out more about you?
You know what? You can hit me up on Clubhouse. I'm really active on IG. So Byron the Investor there. Also Byron Investor on Clubhouse. And also YouTube. Yeah. Definitely tap in with me on YouTube.
For sure, man. This has been absolutely amazing. I love this episode because it's like I said, so many applicable things to so many different industries. And man, you are absolutely killing it. I know you continue to climb and take it to the top, especially with, all the things that you got going on with, 9 to 5 millionaire and all that kind of stuff too. I know your business is only just getting started too. So it's, I'm so excited to see like where you're going. And I really do hope that, cause there's some wholesalers in Houston, and I'm not going to name no names, but there are some wholesalers in Houston that, I would like for you to, overtake them in in volume because
Keep doing your thing, baby.
Yeah. So keep
growing.
Keep growing because there's some people I would like for you to overtake, but that's a whole nother conversation. But nah, man, this has been absolutely dope. We appreciate you coming on the show, man. Episode 105. We appreciate you, man.
105, baby.
For sure. That's it. Oh, let me do the outro.
I'm gonna do it for you in a second.
My fault. Well, that's it for this episode of the Money Monopolizers podcast. New episodes will be released every Thursday and will be available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Just search Money Monopolizers wherever you listen to podcasts. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and if you did, we'd appreciate if you rated us 5 stars and left us a review on Apple Podcasts. Yo, we just hit the Apple Podcast top 200 charts. Keep leaving those rating and reviews. We taking this podcast all the way to the top, and we need the rating and reviews, so keep leaving them. But other than that, we will see y'all in the next one.
You've been listening to the Money Monopolizers podcast, helping you take control of your financial destiny. To learn more about how you can be in control of your money, visit moneymonopolizers.com. We'll catch you next time when Alex and Marlon share more personal finance and wealth creation tips with you. Now it's time to take action.